Yorgo Lykouria. I hope the pronunciation is correct. He's the founder and creative director of Rainlight Studio, and his clients include, among many others, Ferrari, Montblanc, and Scavolini. Please, Yorgo, go ahead.
Well, thank you to the... can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to the Italian Trade Agency, and I'm absolutely honored to be in everyone's company here today with the maestros of Italian design. I think I will try my best to be very quick. I'm going to very quickly talk about some of my background and then quickly get to the part that's relevant, which is my experience working in Italy. I started my career in architecture and gravitated towards product design. This was mainly from my love of form and detail, and I'm fascinated by the relevance of artifacts in our daily lives. I've had the privilege of working with on architectural projects around the world and with manufacturers from Italy, Germany, Austria, France, Japan, and the United States. And through all those experiences, I'm very grateful. This is a product for an air terminal seating. It was part of a project I was doing, the Cologne airport. And you know, even though we're not flying very much these days, I'm always in a state of wonder when the plane lifts off the ground. And it was a dream from Daedalus and Da Vinci since many years that we could fly. And finally, we made the dream real. And it's when I designed this chair, I wanted to evoke that feeling of flight again. This is an aspect of my work, I would say. I always start with an intention, a feeling, an emotion that I want to capture. And because I don't think we really need any more chairs. I don't think we need more products in the world. And if we are going to build them, I think we have to have a very good reason for it. This is the Cologne airport. The intention here was extraordinary because we had an amazing client and we could focus on very particular architectonic elements like the check-in counters, and the lighting and everything was done with great care. In talking about, you know, artifacts, this is a project I did for Montblanc. You know, I'm fascinated that there are certain objects that we still live with which are in fact quite ancient. And for this limited edition project for Montblanc, I want to depict the pen as a relevant artifact in our times. It's a solid acrylic case that's milled and to receive the pen and the inkwell, and there's a an etching of a letter from Wolfgang von Goethe at a time when Europe still had a high degree of mass illiteracy. So this was for UNICEF. It's a reminder to us about the preciousness and the value of literacy. Another artifact which is very common and ancient, I would say, is the door handle, and I did this for FSB, it's a German manufacturer. When I designed the door handle, I have to admit I was a little bit daunted because there are a lot of masterpieces in design, and the perfect minimal form of the door handle, the bent tube, was already done. So
Yorgo, are you with us? I guess something happened to his connection. Well, while we try to find out what happened to Yorgo, I'll ask a question coming from the public. This is Helen Parton from Informare in London. And her question is the following: does the panel agree that the unfortunate postponement of many great trade fairs like Milan actually present an opportunity to set new standards in innovation? Who would like to answer? Marco? Patrizio?
Well, from my side, it is really a pity because that event, the one in Milano, but only the one in Milano, is an occasion to meet people, to talk, to confront yourself with a lot of other you know, realities. A lot of young people, they come to Milano. Milano, like Shanghai, if you like, you know, opposite side of the world, is full of life, you know. Even when we come to New York, we have been there, you know, to close our work, you know. I think it's
I'm back. I'm back.
Sorry.
Yes, Yorgo, let Marco finish a question and then we'll be back with you.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yes, for sure the structure of exhibition will change, maybe will be more dynamical, if I think, but I think that will come back, you know, because there is something in design that you have to experiment physically, you know, and so I think that they come back again, you know, and maybe in a different condition, maybe they will last maybe longer, I don't know, but it's an experiment field that we need to confront, to talk about our professional activity.
Okay, thank you, Marco. Yorgo, go ahead.
Yes, hello, sorry about that. I guess this is the problem with working remotely. Sometimes technology gets in the way. My apologies.
No worries.
Can you see my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay, I think we have all of us here too. Okay, so the door handles, these were done without a single drawing. The process I used, effectively I sculpted these forms a lot of times blindfolded, so that I'm not conscious of the form, what it looks like, but more what it feels. And then my sculptures were then digitized to create the actual tooling. So it was an artisanal process that was digitized, which was quite an interesting opportunity to work with them like that. Another German company, Dornbracht, you know, again, the idea of the artifact, the idea of something that's been around forever, but you know, I always feel compelled to reinterpret things and to express the poetry of an object from our perspective today. I also designed several basins for that group, and also, you know, again, you know, artifacts. This is inspired by the rectory table that we would see in a monastery, and looking at it from our perspective, using materiality that is relevant to our times, and in a way trying to tame it and humanize it, something hard like steel, like Francesca said, you know, cold masculine steel, and it is, but there's something about it that's also very poetic. The lightness about it, you think about the world of nature and the kind of strength that exists in certain materials and life forms like insects, and steel gives us that impression. So I think our job is to humanize it and to tame it and to sometimes soften it. I had the privilege of designing the interiors for the Chicago University of Chicago Library. It's a research library. Underneath, there are 3.5 million books that are gathered up with a retrieval system. And for the interior, the main event is just a place to study. And it's very simple because the books are underground. You can see all the way out through this glass dome. So I designed the interior, the furniture inside it, and also my company manufactured the furniture for this project. Another kind of architectural opportunity in Berlin at Potsdamer Platz was very interesting, because it was at the time when when Berlin was being reunified. It was they were putting the city back together, and so the kind of hardness of the materiality reflects that state in time, and at the same time there was a very strong presence of light to represent the optimism for the future, and again, very detail intensive project. For Nagare, for Okamura, it's a Japanese company, and we've been working with them for years. In this project, we wanted to reflect something of a cultural viewpoint, their cultural viewpoint on nature. Nagare means flow in Japanese, and this collection of ancillary office furniture is inspired by natural forms like river rocks. And the challenge here was to bring a sense of nature to work, sense of not having the familiar object of what you would think a sofa would look like, or a chair would look like. And had the experience of almost sitting on a riverbank next to a tree. And And this is showing a lot of the artifacts that go with it, which allow it to connect, to be part of the modern world, to be part of a connected world, and to allow a mobile way of working. And then it develops into a whole series of platforms which are completely organic in the way that they could be reorganized and reused to create different kinds of spaces. This is another project in Berlin. It's a private apartment, which was quite unique. The entire floor is frosted mirrors, so is the bathroom. The sink is an extremely minimal kind of sink. It's a plate of glass. Again, this was an exercise in restraint, where so much is done to express. This was just the opposite, to kind of create a calm, I guess, meditative or mindful experience in a space like that. I'll move very quickly into the Italian jobs. The Italian jobs, I have to say, have been a great adventure. As everyone has said on this call already, you know, when I think about Italian design, what I realized working in Italy is that it's Italian manufacturing. It's the beauty of the execution, the craftsmanship, the knowledge, the skill, the care. What's amazing about Italian products is that, yes, it must be functional and it must be well built, but more than that, it has to be beautiful. And I think that, well, this is something that I always aspire to, and I think that it's important as a designer to always aspire to the highest form of beauty that we can. And Italian manufacturing certainly supports that vision and quest for designers and makes the best of us. So prior to studying architecture, I wanted to be a car designer, and I was advised that I should study mechanical engineering, but I didn't get along with physics, so I changed my direction to architecture. I was working with Frank Stevenson on, you know, he was the design director for Ferrari. This was after Pininfarina and Ferrari started to kind of divide their work, and now everything's in-house at Ferrari. But the challenge was to rethink the interior of the cars, and this goes back to 2005, hence the renderings are not photorealistic. But at that time, we were looking at how to create a greater simplicity and elegance in the interior to return it back to the original idea of what the Ferrari used to be. And we used new materials like, well, of course, like carbon and glass, but also ceramics and titanium and things like that, which would create an inner experience which would recapture that elegance and simplicity, and take us away from the kind of, I would say, clutter of technical gadgets that typify our lives. And so in effect, I took technology and put it in the service of simplicity. Another great experience was techno, because you know, techno it has a strong place in Italian design, in the Italian design story. You know, their motto of technical elegance, I would say, applies to most of Italian design and manufacturing, but in particular in techno's case. What I realized in exploring the history of the company, which is something that I do with every project, is understand the client, is that the design changed as the decades went along. It followed very closely the direction of technology at the time. And so for this project, we looked at new materiality and new methods in order to capture a kind of biomimetic sensibility that would satisfy the need for emotional comfort. This is actually Mr. Giuliano Mosconi. He said of this chair, he said it's inspired by a flower, but it's designed to feel like an embrace. And I think very much that is the case. We're still developing aspects of this chair, and we look forward to hopefully next year being able to debut a second edition of this piece. For Scavolini, another very fascinating project. It was quite an ambitious program, because we were trying to solve one of the biggest problems in urban living, which is the lack of space in the small apartment. I believe the small apartment can be beautiful if you do it right, and that's what we wanted to prove. And so whether one is living in Manhattan or Milan, there's essential ways of capturing a sense of beauty and elegance in that kind of small footprint. So we began to look at the essential needs of a dwelling, and we started to overlay the kind of footprints of life on the apartment, and realized that we could create a modular system where it would deploy itself as it needed to, like an iPhone or other such devices. So that same space becomes, in one moment, a kitchen, in another moment, a dining room or a bedroom. And we looked at a variety of different types of dwellings so that we could explore the functionality of the system and develop each box of the Box to Life collection so that it has a clear relationship to the functionality that is needed. Something like this, well, again, we weren't thinking about a pandemic, but the ability to convert your space from office to bedroom to kitchen is quite relevant these days. And from the small apartment, we started to think about other things like the family house. How could the family dwelling become something organic and transformational as well? Also looking at even the workplace, and ultimately arriving at the villa, and how we could take away aspects or the presence of certain things that we live with every day, such as the kitchen, and deploy it when we need it. So that's effectively a quick summary of my work. Rainlight is a design studio that's based in London and New York. I live in London. Our clients are all over the world, and we're having to do this kind of thing to keep in touch with everybody and to keep the work flowing and to keep everyone inspired. London just went on lockdown again. Though I was in Milan 1 month before, just to luckily get away before this happened. But I look forward to the days when we could be working in a very natural way again. Thank you.
Okay, it's up to me to try to give in a few minutes the closing remarks of this, I think, very important Italian Design Day webinar, because we named this seminar Innovation, Style and Sustainability in Italian Design. And I think that through the experiences and important works and projects presented by our speakers, I think we have been able to give a demonstration of how innovation, style, and sustainability is largely considered by our designers. First of all, I would like to thank the Ambassador Barricchio for giving the opening remarks to this seminar. But of course, I would like to thank the speakers, Pesce, Lissoni, Lanzavecchia, Piva, Cionfori, and Lykouria, because they have been able to confirm what it was our assertion at the beginning, that in the Italian case of the design, there is an Italian way. There is already a combination of strength and power, if you want, that is going to allow the Italian design to be ready, to be fit to face the new challenges. We have seen already in many of the works that the respect for nature has been considered. A very careful and attentive consideration for the materials is also there. There is always a kind of interest and roots in the past, but mind is already in the future. And what is also important is the fact that this activity is deployed in many different fields. I was saying before that the Italian designer, or the son of the Italian style of the design, the one that comes from the culture of the Italian design, is a philosopher. It is a mix of different kind of social activities. Is a doer. It's somebody that is going to adjust things, to think about, what should be, and then it gives the instruction to the manufacturer. And once again, we have seen through the works that the Italian companies are indispensable in perfecting this kind of ideas and projects of the design. It was mentioned, for instance, the ability of Italian companies in manufacturing this kind of items. So I think that we are going to be ready as a system to tackle the new problems, to tackle the new challenges. And I'm sure that once again, due to the excellent, fantastic works of all of you, of all the speakers, and the new generations of the designers that are going to operate within the frame of the Italian way to design, we are going to be more than in the past able to face also this kind of problems that we know, we hope is going to be in a new normal as soon as possible. So this seminar organized by the Italian Embassy, that Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Italian Trade Agency is going to be closed now. And once again, thank you very much also to the people that they've attended this kind of seminar. And we hope, as I said, that is going just to be one of these steps of and passages of our dialogue. We intend to not, of course, to have a full substitution of the physical events, but we do think that by organizing this kind of seminars and webinars with the digital tools, we are going to keep alive, if you want, the flame of the contacts between the two worlds and the worlds of the design and the users and utilizers and consumers. And at the time that things are going to be resumed, like it was mentioned by architect Piva, we will need again the material world. We will need again the physical world, because I think the design needs the Saloni in Milano, and the design thing needs also any kind of physical contact, because that is the way the people socialize, and the exchange and the flow of ideas is going to generate new solutions to the problems that designers every single day they try to solve at the benefit of the users and consumers. Thank you very much again, and I hope that we are going to be again together very soon. Thank you.